What's good, everybody? It's the Cloud with Cab Show. NFL Week 17 was awesome. Even though my trash Indianapolis Colts lost the game, we're out of the playoffs. Just another down year for my Indianapolis Colts. I don't really have high expectations for them anymore because that's what I expect now. I expect a mediocre season. I expect, really bum tendencies out of the Indianapolis Colts organization where they really don't know what they're doing. It just speaks volumes. It really does. They just got a lot of bum tendencies there in Indianapolis. So I'm not really surprised about how the season went, how Anthony Richardson performed. Even Jonathan Taylor, our two-star players, really performed mediocre. So, I'm looking at them and saying, we got to have a bounce-back year next year. Because right now, we're done. It's over with, but we know the Kansas City Chiefs had the number 1 seed in the AFC. They got the lock, and it looks like Mahomes could really become and make history this year to become the only guy to three-peat as a captain like that, as a quarterback. No team's ever three-peated in history of the NFL. And they have the opportunity to do it. So I think Mahomes is locked in. I do think they sit Mahomes Week 18, the last week of the NFL before the playoffs. I think that's a smart decision for them to do that, to sit Mahomes. But they ran right through the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't going to run deep in the playoffs. There's only a couple teams that pose a huge threat to the Kansas City Chiefs. And that is if, by chance, the Cincinnati Bengals get in Joe Burrow, which they still have a shot, which is crazy, right? But I think the biggest threat for Kansas City and Mahomes is definitely the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar. They beat them last year in Baltimore. It's going to be in Kansas City this year, so it's going to be a rematch. And speaking of Lamar, I do think he's going to win MVP this year. Do I think it's right? Yeah, and I do in a way, but I still think Saquon Barkley should do it. He's 101 yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's single-season record in the NFL of rushing. Dude, that's something crazy. In a pass-heavy league right now, I'm still leaning more towards Saquon, but, shout out to Lamar Jackson. 39 touchdowns, only 4 picks this year. It's been insane what Lamar's been doing this year. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns. The list goes on and on how Lamar's really just changing the dynamic of Baltimore. But the thing is, for Lamar, is he understands he's got to get over the hump. Same thing with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. They got to win that big game. If they don't win that big game, they're just not going to make it. It's just you got to beat Kansas City and Mahomes or else you're really done, bro. That's just part of it, bro. You got to get over the hump. You got to get over the adversity of failing. You know what I'm saying? And this dates back from, early times, but I just think how the NFL shaped up, it's really shaped up for the quarterback to succeed now. It really is. With it being, you can't hit the quarterback hard anymore. You can't do these late hits. But for now, it's this is Lamar's greatest opportunity to win a Super Bowl is this year. Why? Because he's got Derrick Henry. That's why, man. He's got the defense to really lead them. So I think Lamar, man, all the pressure's on Baltimore right now. It's not on Kansas City. It's on the Baltimore Ravens. And that's going to be interesting to see how that develops, man, in the future. But, what a time for week 17. Let me start off with the Cincinnati Bengals in Denver. They won in overtime. Nobody wants to see the Cincinnati Bengals win. If the Cincinnati Bengals get in the playoffs, they have to win this last week, and they need Denver to lose to Kansas City, which I don't think is going to happen because they're going to rest Mahomes, but you just never know. But what a season for Joe Burrow, dude. He had 3 touchdowns, 412 yards against the Denver Broncos. That is crazy. We're talking about a top 3 team in the league that he's putting up these numbers on. In this year, Joe Burrow, nobody talks about Joe Burrow, which is crazy. Over 4,600 yards passing, 42 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. That is crazy. That's insane to me, dude. What Joe Burrow's been able to do this season has been magical. And for him not even to be in the MVP conversation is crazy, dude. The only reason he's not in the MVP conversation is because we know the Bengals are trash. They have a trash defense. They give up a lot of points weekly all the time. So it's just holy cow, man. That's just how they do it, man. It's just part of life, right? It's just how it is. But for Joe Burrow, man, what he's been able to do, man, it's been awesome, man. So shout out to Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals getting a huge win against the Denver Broncos, man, in overtime. And then we got the Arizona Cardinals versus the LA Rams. The Rams won in a close one, which I knew was going to happen. And same thing with the LA Rams. And Sean McVay, they always play better in the second half of the season. Nobody wants to see the LA Rams in the playoffs. We're talking about Puka Nacua. We're talking about the run game and Kyron Williams. We're talking about Cooper Kupp, who really hasn't performed great in the past two or 3 months. But overall, right now, I'm looking at the Rams and saying, bro, they have it, man. They just won a Super Bowl a couple years ago against the Bengals. So, like, the LA Rams are a huge threat in the NFC. Like, nobody wants to see the Rams either, bro. Like, to be honest with you, we're talking about the Rams team that can put up some crazy points and crazy numbers. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how that develops. But like I said, nobody wants to see the Rams in the playoffs this year because they can put up some big numbers and they got a sound defense as well. So I can't wait to see how that develops, man. And then we had the Carolina Panthers versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers ran right through the Panthers. I knew this was going to happen. Same thing. I don't think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win the Super Bowl or make it to the Super Bowl. But however, I do think they can win a playoff game or two. I really do. I mean, Baker Mayfield this year has been going insane. I mean, this game he had 5 touchdowns against the Carolina Panthers. But overall, man, Baker, 39 touchdowns, 15 picks, over 4,200 yards passing. So Baker's put up some great numbers. Even though he has one of the greatest receivers of all time, nobody talks about Mike Evans, who had 97 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Carolina Panthers. So, like, the Bucs are there. They're a huge threat in the playoffs. However, I just don't see them winning the Super Bowl. I just don't. I don't think they have the depth to do it. I don't think yes, they have a sound defense, but overall, it's just like, yeah, I get it. They had some huge wins this year. You know, in Detroit, they beat Detroit earlier on this season. Like, they've had some magical wins, but overall, I just don't see them really running deep this year. Maybe a playoff win here, but to go to the Super Bowl, I don't think it's going to happen. But shout out to the Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I cannot wait to see you guys in the playoffs. Let's go! And then we have my Indianapolis Colts getting ran through by a 2-win team in the Giants. It's just embarrassing, man. It's just mediocre, like I said from the beginning. Just a lot of bum tendencies, bum qualities, where it's just like they just, I don't know what they do in the offseason. Do you guys watch film? Do you guys go in the weight room? Do you go the extra mile? Are you working on your cardio and speed? Like, it's a typical Colts organization now, man. It's just mediocre at best. You know, now it used to be like Super Bowl or bust for the Colts, right? When Peyton was here. Now it's just like, oh man, like if we make the playoffs, let's have a round of applause. It's like, dude, when did we get so like that, bro? Like, when did this happen? When did the Colts like hit that switch where it's like, yeah, man, average is great. That's just what we want in life is average. But it's just my Indianapolis Colts, man. It's just trash, man. It's just trash. And then we got the New York Jets versus the Buffalo Bills. The Bills ran right through the Jets. I knew this was going to happen, man. And shout out to Josh Allen. Nobody wants to talk about Josh Allen, how great he's been doing this year. But I'm telling you right now, man, Josh Allen, the biggest surprise to me was not throwing picks this year. And that's what he's not been throwing a lot of interceptions. And we saw in this game 2 touchdowns, 182 yards passing. But, you know, they took him out towards the end of the game. But for the Bills, man, it's same thing. Same thing as Lamar. You guys are in the same boat where it's like Super Bowl or bust. If you guys do not win the Super Bowl, it's going to be a bust season for you guys. Same thing with Lamar, man. Like, Lamar and Josh Allen are in the very similar boats where it's like, bro, you got to overcome this adversity, man. You got to overcome these losses that you're taking in the playoffs. And this is the year to do it for Lamar and Josh Allen. They got to make a deep run or else Mahomes is literally going to own them. So, huge win by the Buffalo Bills. They're going to lock up the 2 seed. I can't wait to see what happens in the playoff for the Bills. Let's go! And then we got the Dallas Cowboys versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles ran right through the Cowboys even without Jalen Hurts. Like I said, Saquon Barkley should win MVP this year, especially if he breaks Eric Dickerson's record, single-season rushing record. I think that's what he's got to do. He's 100 yards away from tying it, 101 yards away from breaking it. And what a way to do it, right? Saquon's playing his old team in the Giants, the last game of the year. Can't even make this up, bro. This is like better than a movie script, dude. I think they're going to play Saquon. They're going to give him 20-plus touches, as they should. And as soon as he rushes for over 101 yards, hey, take Saquon out and save him for the postseason. He could do it in the first half. He really can. And I actually like that bet. You know, against his former team in the Giants, I think he's going to surpass the rushing record in the first half. So they can sit Saquon in the second. I can't wait, man. Look at the Dallas Cowboys. Same scenario every year. They're kind of becoming like the Indianapolis Colts, just mediocre. Don't even make the playoffs, and if they do, they get bounced in the first game. So, like, it just sucks for the Cowboys organization. They need to trade Dak Prescott. Jerry Jones needs to sell the organization. They need to hit the reset button in Dallas. Because what they're doing in Dallas, man, it's just, they just care about being famous. That's it, dude. They don't care about anything else. All they care about is fame, how many likes they can get. That's it, dude. That's the Dallas Cowboys MO. They don't care about winning Super Bowls anymore, dude. That's been since the 90s, bro. That was way before the iPhones even hit the market. Like, crazy. We're talking decades before. Like, that's insane, but shout shout out to the freaking Philadelphia Eagles getting a huge win. And then we had the Raiders beating up on the Saints. Some of these games were irrelevant, especially the games that doesn't mean anything, that you're not going to make the playoffs. It really doesn't mean crap, especially if you're out of the playoffs, man. That's just part of it. Like, Jacksonville, yeah, they beat Tennessee. They're both two trash teams that are going to miss the playoffs. Like, that's just how it is, man. But shout out to the Miami Dolphins beating the Cleveland Browns. I was wrong on this prediction. I picked the Cleveland Browns. I thought for sure they would win. And Tua didn't even play this game. Tyler Huntley actually balled out. 225 yards passing and a touchdown. He also had 52 rushing yards and a touchdown as well. So Tyler Huntley played nice. Tyreek Hill had a good game, 105 yards receiving throughout the day, and it was all Miami. Miami still has a slight chance to make the playoffs, which is pretty crazy, right? They play against the Jets in New York, the last game of the year. But for the Miami Dolphins, it's kind of similar, man. They're just a finesse type of team. They don't really play good defense. Yeah, they have a great offense, but to win a Super Bowl in the NFL, you have to have the complete package. You have to have a great special teams unit. You have to have a great secondary. You have to have a great offense and defensive line in the trenches to win a Super Bowl. And you absolutely have to have a great quarterback. So, obviously Miami, they have some tools, but overall, they just don't got it. They just don't, man. But shout out to the Miami Dolphins getting a big win on the road in Cleveland. And then we had the Green Bay Packers versus the Minnesota Vikings. I picked the Vikings in this matchup. The 1.5 hit. They won by 2 points. Should have won by more. But shout out to the Minnesota Vikings, man. Nobody wants to talk about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold this year has had a great year. I think they're going to sign an extension for Sam Darnold. We're talking about a guy who put up 377 yards on Green Bay's defense with 3 touchdowns. Yes, he had an interception, but overall, man, this year, Sam Darnold, 35 touchdowns, 12 picks overall. Really a great season for Sam Darnold. I mean, we're talking about a guy that really was written off. Like, even me, I thought Sam Darnold was done. He was washed up. I thought he was really on his way out of the NFL. But, he flipped the script on everybody and said, hold up, dude. Like, hey, I'm in a good system right now. Had the best receiver in the league in Justin Jefferson. Let's take off here. Let's take off on it, man. And it just went from there. But Justin Jefferson, 92 yards receiving. Jordan Addison had 69 yards receiving and a touchdown. So it was all Minnesota, really. And Green Bay just kind of, like I said, man, they're not a team that's going to win the Super Bowl this year. Jordan Love still, to me, is a big question mark. Yes, he had some good moments this season, but in the playoffs, in this grimy type of game in the playoffs, how it is, just the harder hitting, the colder games, the more pressure you feel as a player in the playoffs, it's just a different type of game, man. I just don't think truly Jordan Love's ready for it right now. However, in the future, for sure, I think Green Bay has a bright future with Jordan Love, how the Green Bay Packers are developed in their organization. But overall, man, it's just like I don't see it right now. I don't see Green Bay making big noise in the playoffs. But the Minnesota Vikings, however, are definitely an X-Factor type of team in the playoffs. They play Detroit the last game of the season next weekend for the number 1 seed. I cannot wait for that game. Let's go! And then we got the Atlanta Falcons versus the Washington Commanders. Another disappointing loss for the Atlanta Falcons in overtime. Man, shout out to freaking Jaden Daniels, man. 3 touchdowns, 1 pick this game. I mean, what a rookie year. He should win Rookie of the Year, absolutely. And we're talking about a guy that put up 25 touchdowns and 9 picks. Over 3,500 yards passing, dude. So, shout out to Jaden Daniels, man. I think he was really written off. He also has 6 rushing touchdowns as well this season. So, he's really turned Washington around. Washington will be in the playoffs this year. Who knows? I don't think Washington's going to make a deep run. I just think I don't think they have the depth to do it this year in the defense. But who knows, man? If Jaden Daniels is playing flawlessly with Terry McLaurin and company, I'm telling you, and Brian Robinson Jr. that get that run game going, I think Washington can make some noise. I really do, man. Shout out to Jaden Daniels. Broke the rookie rushing record, beat RG3 when RG3 was in Washington back in 2012. Broke his record. So shout out to Jaden Daniels, man. Making some big noise, man. Shout out to Washington Commanders. They are probably the biggest surprise to me all year. The biggest surprising team all year is definitely the Washington Commanders. Nobody saw them. They'd be this good. Even the Minnesota Vikings are very surprised, but the Washington Commanders, this good right now, going to the playoffs, man. Let's take off Jaden Daniels. Let's go. And then we had the Monday Night Football game. The Detroit Lions beating up on the San Francisco 49ers. I knew this game was going to hit, man, and I knew Jahmyr Gibbs anytime touchdown was going to hit as well. Jared Goff, 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards passing this game. Jahmyr Gibbs, like I said, a touchdown and 117 yards rushing. You got Jameson Williams have a touchdown, Sam Laporta, St. Brown. Dude, I'm telling you, Detroit and Dan Campbell, I understand he likes to gamble, but at the end of the day, man, he plays to win the game, and I love that about Dan Campbell. You know, he goes for it on fourth down, and we will see this in the playoffs. Even though it did bite him in the butt in the NFC Championship game last year against the 49ers, where he could have elected to kick the field goal, one of those fourth downs, but he didn't. Ended up biting him in the butt. But, however, I just think Detroit is deep this year, and I'm telling you right now, even with all the injuries on defense, they're going to get some players back. But overall, I'm telling you, Detroit is the team to beat. I don't care what Minnesota's doing. I'm telling you, Detroit is the team to beat. They're the best team in the NFL on eye test is what I'm saying. Is just how great they've been playing, man. They have so much depth, man. But I'm telling you, man, we got Kansas City, Detroit, probably at the top of the food chain right now, even though they're different divisions. But I just think overall, man, Kansas City, look at the three-peat, man. Nobody wants to see Kansas City win again, but it's looking like it right now that Kansas City's going to three-peat, dude. And I hate to say it, man, but history's in the making. Patrick Mahomes is that it factor. And I just think most of the pressure right now is on Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen in the AFC. Like, you guys are going to have to beat Patrick Mahomes or else, you know, what's it going to be? A good regular season MVP like Patrick Mahomes, all he cares about is Super Bowl. So they're going to have to turn it up a notch. We got one more week for the NFL. Saquon Barkley is my MVP. No cap from Cap. It's the Cloudwood Cap Show. Let's go!